Highwaymen and highway ladies out there in YouTube land, it's Rob the History Smith here with a video for you guys today. I'm going for something a little bit different, as you can probably already see. This is going to be the oldest pistol I have featured so far. This pistol comes from around 1830, give or take a couple of years. Interesting thing about 1830 from my point of view is being in North America, that was the year of the Alamo. And this actually would be something similar you would have seen them using in the Alamo. It would have been a private purchase, not a military gun, but it does represent a military gun quite well, like a baby Dragoon. The big difference between this and something like a baby Dragoon would be there's no metal butt plate down here. What would be for cracking somebody over their head with. But let's take a look at what we do have, shall we? So it is a single shot, around 50 cal. I'm not exactly sure the caliber. It was made in London. The maker's mark is right down here. It's very hard to make out now. I will show you under the magnifying glass. I can't remember the guy's name offhand, and it's a little too hard to read at the moment. So further research is needed. But at the time when I did get the pistol, it came back to a London gun maker from on Bond Street, and he only practiced between around 1825 to about 1838. So it pins down the date quite accurately. I don't know how many pistols he would have made, but this is one of them. He's not a particularly well-known guy. He's just kind of one of those people that probably retailed them more than actually manufactured them. So the most obvious one is going to be this ramrod here that's retained, which is a nice little feature I find, because you'd see it on cavalry pistols back in the day. These ramrods are notoriously easy to lose, and unless it's attached to the pistol like this, chances of you getting the original ramrod are pretty slim. So you can see it pivots around. The actual use of it, I think, should be like this. You put the powder, the ball, and then you ram it down and use the fat end against your hand so you don't pierce yourself. It can be spun around, like so, and insert it, but you're not leaving any real room for the ball. I mean, you're not leaving much room this way either. But that's my belief of how it should be used. We'll leave that debate for the historians. For me, I'm not planning on shooting it, so it doesn't really matter to me. The way it functions, you have a half cock, full cock. So that's your cock, that's your lock, that's your frizzen, and that's your pan. And the pan is where you put the powder. You can see the little touch hole right here where the powder would go through to ignite everything. This one here, the spring has been weakened quite a bit. The original spring broke, which is a good example of why when you're at a gun show you ask somebody before you cock and pull the trigger on something like this. I got it home and it was only about 4 times cocking it, and I truly mean only 4 times cocking it, and that spring broke. We'll take a look at the insides and how that spring actually functions and where it broke. I do have the original, but I'll explain why I'm not using it as we go further into the video. One interesting feature about this, it has an early lock mechanism. This is not a dog lock, but it is a lock mechanism. It doesn't work anymore. This pistol's quite worn. I mean, you can see there with the ramrod, just falls right out. And we'll take a look at some of the features. So obviously you have the ramrod and you have the tube. The tube is pinned in place right here. You have the trigger guard. You have some engraving on the trigger guard, a little bit on the tube there, and you have one screw on the back holding this in place. What you can't see under here, we'll take a look at that. There's a pin holding the front of the trigger guard in place. Obviously you have the trigger. You have a nice little instruction on the back there where you can put your initials. The tang here is slightly engraved as well, as you can hopefully see. There's the screw on the side that holds your lock in place, comes straight through to there. We'll take a look at that. And then there's more reinforcement here for that little wedge, and I'll show you what the wedge is for. One thing that's very hard to see, and hopefully you guys can see it, is on the back here there's faint remnants of checkering. Hopefully you guys can see that. There's also a nice little line that follows up here. This gun would have looked quite stunning when it was new. But as I was saying about things being loose, so let's get on to how you would maintain this pistol back in the day. You pull the ramrod out. The wedge should be held firmly in place, but in this case it is not. It just kind of falls right out, at which point you can then tip the barrel up and out. And that's your disassembly there for cleaning. It's kind of nice. I mean, it's modern pistols Flintlocks should come apart the same way for cleaning. That way you're not getting water and gunk all over your wood. But let's take a close-up look here at the... Actually, I'll point out right now, there is quite a bit of damage. You can see right there, that piece is quite loose. There's a crack along here. They all lead back to stress points. The one, hopefully you guys can see right here, there's a big piece of wood that's been replaced at some point back in the day. And you can see it probably broke right here where the ramrod is stored, because it's drilled out, it's thin, you know, who knows, dropped. Anything could have happened in its 200 years of life. But there is a repair there. And like I said, there are cracks up here. That's the extent of the damage on here, so it's not too bad. All in all. So to get the lock out, we'll have to take that screw out. There we go. There's your screw. There's the inside of the stock. Let's take a look at the lock, shall we? So there's also a spring right here. That spring generally won't break. It's not under a lot of use. It's kind of just biases the frizzen open or closed. But when we take a look on the back here, I'll point out the part that broke. So that's the main spring right here. And springs are all consumable parts on a firearm. They will wear out. They will break. So sucks, but you can't do much about it other than put them in your safe and don't use them, right? So the original one broke right here. And my concern about welding it or replacing it with a similar strength spring is the weakest link in the chain argument. So as soon as you fix one part, another part will break. I mean, who hasn't had that happen with a car, right? You go in and you get the brakes replaced or something like that, and then you break the brake line, and then you replace the brake line, and you break the master cylinder. Believe me, it happened to me. I drive old cars. So what's going to happen here, if you replace it with a stronger spring, the next weakest point is going to be the cock itself right here. They tend to snap here, and personally, I'd rather have a weak spring than a broken cock. And yes, that sounds dirty. But going back to, let's take a look at some details, shall we? I'm going to drag up my magnifying glass, or microscope, and we're going to take a look at the maker's mark. There it is. Let's see if I can get that in better focus for you guys. The pitting looks really bad, but it's actually not quite as bad as it looks. Man, this is hard to get in focus. And call it there in focus. So you see it BLSS. I don't know what it says, but that is the maker's mark there. It's very hard to read. We'll take a look at some of the engraving. So there's the engraving on the cock itself. Kind of straightforward, simple stuff. An engraved screw. There's that locking mechanism I was talking about. I was going to say that pitting looks really bad, and the whole lock mechanism is covered in that pitting. But when you look at it compared to my finger, it's very shallow. I don't know what would have caused that, because the barrel's not quite as pitted. There's some more engraving for you guys on the back there. Take a look at the barrel marks as well. The barrel has what you want to see on it, which are these proof marks. There's a crown over something, and I don't know what the something is. And there's another crown over the initials, looks like CP or something similar to that. That would be the inspector's mark who is doing the proofing. All British guns need to be proofed before they can be sold to the public, and that's what this is. If it was a military pistol, you'd see the standard broad arrow marks. So I was saying this could have been purchased by, or meant to be purchased by, civilians for just personal defense against something like highwaymen, or it could have been for defense against dogs or invading marauders. I don't know who would be defending yourself against this, but it's a nice little pistol, and when it got to Canada, I couldn't tell you how long it's been here. I couldn't tell you. It could have been right away. It could have been brought over yesterday. Well, not yesterday. I've had it a couple of years. But it could have been brought over, you know, anytime. But just so you guys know, I'm sure most of you out there already know if you're watching this, but I'm just going to go over it for the people who might be interested. You have that classic saying, lock, stock, and barrel. This is what they're referring to. Also, Nightmare of Christmas, too. Paul Rubin. Miss you, guy. All right, here we go. So there's your lock. There's your stock. And there's your barrel. That's it. That would be called a locking wedge, and obviously that's just a screw. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like, subscribe. If you do like it, let your friends know about me, and hopefully we'll keep growing. I'm at 151, I believe, right now, which is great. Every single one of you matters, and I appreciate you watching and I appreciate you subscribing. So please like, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great day, everyone.